I'm looking at statistics this morning here when asking, do you think the increase in U.S. force in Baghdad and surrounding provinces the past months has made security better? 70% say worse. In the deployment areas, 68% elsewhere in Iraq draw the same conclusions. Another recent poll had 68% of Iraqis believe that the surge has hampered conditions for political reconciliation. 70% believe that security has deteriorated as a result of this. 93% of all Iraqi Sunnis think it's justifiable to kill Americans. How do we justify this continuation? And what makes us believe, given the failure over the past number of months on the number of key issues which Senator Lugar raised, Senator Biden has raised, the benchmarks that they set for themselves, completing a constitutional review, implementing laws to roll back the de-Ba'athification, enacting legislation relating to oil revenue sharing, amnesty, and outlawing and disarming militias, all of those benchmarks they set for themselves, and yet we're seeing nothing getting better here at all. And as General Jones recently pointed out in his own testimony or talking here, he said that long-term security advances in Iraq are impossible without political reconciliation. Again, something both of you recognize here. And yet I don't seem to get an indication, don't get a feeling here that there's any real opportunity or optimism that this is going to get better. All of the effort that's been made over the years, before the surge, how many conversations did President Bush have with the leadership in Iraq? Vice President Cheney, congressional leaders going over there. We have been begging that leadership for the last 4.5 years to get their act together, begging them to do it, understanding that only they can do it. And yet you come here again this morning, 4.5 years later, even after the surge, we can argue about statistics, but no real indication that we're getting any closer to that. What makes you possibly believe that anything further like this is going to produce the results that everyone else has failed to produce over the previous 4.5 years?
What I draw some encouragement from, Senator, is, again, the activity that is ongoing actually in the absence of legislation. There is, for example, no oil revenue sharing law that has been agreed. That has been proposed but certainly not passed by the Council of Representatives. But Iraq is actually sharing oil revenue, in fact, very similar to what is likely to happen if the bill as currently envisioned is passed. In fact, when the ambassador was out in Anbar province, they increased the budget of Anbar province, the Sunni Arab province. A Shia government, Shia majority government did that. There is no general amnesty law. There is actually, though, conditional immunity. That's the only description of what happens when former insurgents from a place like Abu Ghraib, Sunni Arab, but right next to a Shia, a Sunni Shia fault line, are allowed to attend the Iraqi Police Academy, where they will graduate some number of them on the 10th of this month, and others from another location. That's a very significant step, and candidly, that is what gives some encouragement. There are a number of examples of this, where the big law, the national reconciliation, has not taken place, but there are steps just happening. There are actions being taken that give you hope that they can indeed reconcile with one another, accommodate one another, and so forth. We have worked very hard with the local piece. That is now supported by the Iraqis. We have a senior diplomat, a two-star British general on the force reconciliation, or the engagement cell, and Prime Minister Maliki has formed a National Reconciliation Committee that works with that cell to try to connect the national level actions to move, for example, local volunteers onto the roles of the Ministry of Interior or Ministry of Defense Forces, so they're paid nationally then. As you know, there's no local funding for police. And that has happened. That's what happened in Anbar province, and that's what gives some confidence that these tribes, you know, certainly we applauded when they turned their weapons instead of on us, on al-Qaeda. We have not armed them, by the way. We don't have weapons to give to tribes or something like that. We have funded some of them for periods, and then they've been moved on to the roles of these national ministries. That means that they're in a chain of command that extends to the top. It means that the budget is paid by the center, and in this case, a Sunni Arab Minister of Defense, but a Shia Minister of Interior has hired now again over some 20,000 or so police in Anbar province alone. That's the type of activity that gives me some encouragement, even though, as the chairman correctly quoted from my letter to the troops, they have not met. It has not worked out the way we had hoped with respect to the national legislation, but there have been these other activities that have given us some cause for hope.
Can I just quickly ask?